Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda and I make videos about mindfulness and self-compassion and mindful self-compassion. In my last video, I talked about mindfulness, what it is, why to practice it, and a little bit about how to practice it. Today, I'm going to begin talking about self-compassion. This is a big topic and one that I feel very passionately about. And so I'll be making several videos about various aspects and facets of self-compassion. To start out with, I want you to think about a goal that is important to you. Maybe it's a goal around physical exercise. Maybe it's a goal around practicing mindfulness. Maybe it's a goal around engaging in a creative project. Just bring it to mind and then think about how you talk to yourself about this goal. For me, I'm going to talk about my goal of getting out of the house and going for a mental health walk a few times a week. I can find myself when I am not meeting this goal, talking to myself with a little bit of criticism. I might say, you lazy jerk, get off the couch, stop watching TV, stop scrolling social media, just get out the house. What's the big deal? You know you can do this, you know you'll feel better. I wonder if you can relate. Now I want you to think about what it would be like if a friend came to you with the same goal. Came to you in my instance and said, Amanda, I really want to start going for a walk several times a week. I know it's good for my physical health. I know it's good for my mental health. Really, there's nothing standing in the way and there are no drawbacks to this goal, but I'm really struggling to do it. Would I call my friend a lazy jerk? No. Would I tell them to just get up off the couch and get going? Probably not, at least not with that tone. I'll probably speak to them a little bit more kindly than I speak to myself. And why is that? Just take a moment and think about that. If you would speak to a friend about a goal differently than you would speak to yourself about that same goal, why? Why wouldn't you criticize your friend the way you criticize yourself? When I think about it, I just think, well, it wouldn't be very effective. Why would I put my friend down and make them feel bad about themselves when they're trying to do something good for themselves? It just really doesn't make sense. Why would I push someone down, make them feel small, inadequate, less than, rather than build them up? If I were talking to my friend about the same goal I have for myself, I might say, I know you can do it. You absolutely can. What's getting in the way? How can we tackle that? How can I support you? What would be helpful? It's not that I would tell them to give in to self-indulgence and not accomplish their goal. That wouldn't be a very kind thing to do as a friend. I want to push them to do what it is that they've decided is important for them. But on the other hand, I also wouldn't berate them or make them feel bad about themselves because I just don't think it would be very effective in building them up and making them feel strong enough and accomplished enough to meet their goal. Self-compassion is really recognizing that the things that we do for our friends are just as effective for us. The way we talk to our friends is the way we could be talking to ourselves. Because when I criticize myself around a goal that I'm not meeting, I actually don't feel more motivated to go out and accomplish it. Maybe occasionally out of spite, I'll be like, I'll show you. But long term, that really doesn't work. Long term, what I found to be most effective is to say to myself, this is a goal you have, and you know you're going to feel better if you get out and go for that walk, or work on that creative project, or call up that friend rather than scroll on social media. And you know what? You deserve to feel good. So let's talk about the three components of self-compassion. The first component is kindness. And kindness sits across the table from self-judgment. Self-compassion entails being warm and understanding toward ourselves when we suffer or feel inadequate or fail, rather than ignoring our pain or flagellating ourselves with self-criticism. Self-compassionate people recognize that being imperfect, failing, and experiencing life difficulties is inevitable. So they tend to be gentle with themselves when confronted with painful experiences, rather than getting angry when life falls short of set ideals. People cannot always be or get exactly what they want. When this reality is denied or fought against, suffering increases in the form of stress, frustration, and self-criticism. When this reality is accepted with sympathy and with kindness, greater emotional equanimity is experienced. So we want to meet ourselves in life difficulties with kindness. We don't want to criticize ourselves in the face of challenges because it's just not effective, and it also denies the fact that no matter how hard we work, we're going to experience failures, we're going to make mistakes. And given that that's inevitable, why not meet those inevitabilities with kindness? The third component of self-compassion is common humanity. And this sits across the table from isolation. When we feel frustrated at not having things exactly as we want, it's often accompanied by an irrational but pervasive sense of isolation, as if I were the only person suffering or making mistakes. All humans suffer, however. The very definition of being human is that one is mortal, vulnerable, and imperfect. Therefore, self-compassion involves recognizing that suffering and personal inadequacy is a part of the shared human experience, something that we all go through, rather than being something that happens to me alone. I find when I talk to my friends and my loved ones about the goals I'd like to reach and my struggles and showing up for them consistently, every single one of them can relate, because none of us does all of this perfectly all the time. And as a result, I feel less alone. And if I can kind of absorb that feeling less alone and take it with me, then when I feel that struggle of imperfection or disappointment or suffering, I can remind myself I'm not alone in it. And maybe, of course, there are parts of my experience that are unique to me and aren't shared by anyone or everyone. I still know that the basic broad strokes of being human are that we share this experience, and that none of us is entirely alone in what we're feeling or what we have experienced, no matter what our personal history is. And the third component to self-compassion is mindfulness, and this sits across the table from over-identification. You're already a little familiar with mindfulness from my previous video, but just to say that self-compassion requires taking a balanced approach to our negative emotions so that feelings are neither suppressed nor exaggerated. This equilibrated stance stems from the process of relating personal experience to those of others who are also suffering, thus putting our own situation into larger perspective. It does me no good to wallow in feeling badly, to really sink into it and embrace it. But it also does me no good to try and push it away and to deny it and to twist myself in various uncomfortable shapes in order to get away from it. So you also have this mindfulness as stemming from the willingness to observe our negative thoughts and emotions with openness and clarity so that they are held in mindful awareness. Remember that mindfulness is a non-judgmental, receptive mind state in which one observes thoughts and feelings as they are without trying to suppress or deny them. We cannot ignore our pain and feel compassion for it at the same time. And at the same time, mindfulness requires that we are not over-identified with thoughts and feelings so that we're caught up and swept away by negative reactivity. Remember how I talked about mindfulness gives us the ability to say, I am feeling anxious rather than I am anxious. That's one of the ways that self-compassion through mindfulness helps with not over-identifying with any of our thoughts or feelings. The same thing could be true of pleasant thoughts and feelings. We don't want to hold them so tightly to us that they can't pass by during the natural course of our lives, but we also don't want to push them away for whatever reason we might want to do that. Some people feel like, oh, if I'm experiencing something pleasant, it means that something bad is going to happen, so I'm going to push away the pleasant emotion. Good things always are followed by bad things because that's life. good and bad come and they go. So with mindfulness, we want to observe, which is the ability to observe one's internal and external sensations. So if I'm anxious, I'm observing maybe that my heart is beating more rapidly. We want to be able to describe one's experiences with words. Maybe if I'm anxious, I'm feeling a sinking sensation in my gut. We want to act with awareness, the ability to maintain moment-to-moment awareness while engaging in daily actions or routines. So just being aware of what I'm thinking and feeling as I go about my day, not doing things on automatic pilot. Non-judging of inner experience. So the ability to relate to one's inner experience without judgment. If I'm anxious, I'm not judging myself for feeling anxious. This goes back to the kindness, right? There's no point in judging myself for what I'm feeling because it doesn't work to make that feeling go away. I can't judge myself out of anxiety. I can't judge myself out of sadness or grief. And non-reactivity to inner experience, the ability to maintain equanimity towards one's inner experiences. If I'm noticing unpleasant physical sensations, I can do things to try and soothe them, but I'm not going to layer panic or anxiety or worry on top of those inner experiences. I'm going to accept them because I know that if I try to push them away, I actually stay in contact with them. Imagine you're pushing away an emotion. You're staying in contact with that emotion. If you just say this emotion is here, and all emotions come and go, we kind of stop being engaged with that emotion and we just let it float like those leaves on the stream that I talked about last time. I do want to point out that these three components of self-compassion, kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness, are components that were identified by Christopher Germer and Kristin Neff. I'm going to link to their books below. And truly, if you want to deep dive into the world of self-compassion, that is the best starting spot. In recent years, Kristin Neff has come out with this concept of fierce self-compassion. We often think of self-compassion as something very tender and sweet, like, oh, darling, you are suffering. I am so sorry. What can I do to help? And that is so important. We absolutely need that tender component of self-compassion. But sometimes we need to act with a little bit more assertiveness or even maybe aggressiveness. So while tender self-compassion involves being with ourselves in an accepting way, comforting ourselves, reassuring ourselves that we are not alone and being present with our pain, fierce self-compassion involves acting in the world to alleviate suffering. I think this is very important right now more than ever. So fierce self-compassion tends to involve protecting, providing for, and motivating ourselves. If we can think of tender self-compassion as a sweet parent there tucking us in when we have the flu, feeding us soup and juice, we might think about fierce self-compassion as a mama bear who's protecting her cubs. Sometimes we need to stand tall and say no, draw boundaries, or fight injustice. Or we might need to say yes to ourselves to do what's needed to be happy rather than setting aside our needs for those of others. This is a great example, again, with regards to setting and working towards your goals. Sometimes we have to say to ourselves, no, I'm not going to sit on the couch and watch TV because I told myself I was going to go for that walk. And it wouldn't be kind to myself in the long term if I gave in to self-indulgence. Now, of course, we use this with wisdom. If I'm sick, if I'm injured, sitting on the couch and watching TV might be exactly what I need to do. But if I'm otherwise well and the sun is shining and I've got no other pressing responsibilities, really the compassionate, kind thing to do is to tell myself no and to say yes to my goal and to my long-term goals, the reasons I set those goals in the first place, and get out of the house and go for that walk or work on that creative project or make that YouTube video, whatever it might be. One practice that we can do for self-compassion is called a self-compassion break. And when you are experienced at this, you can do it within a minute. I do self-compassion breaks throughout the day. Whenever something is a little bit of a bump in the road, I give myself a self-compassion break. I'm going to do it much more as a guided practice because we need to practice in guided seated practice or laying down practice or standing up practice, whatever is the most comfortable position for you, before it's practiced enough that we can do it in those moments of real tension. So we're going to do this brief reflection in the style of a meditation to explore the three components of self-compassion: mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. So remembering what we talked about in that last video, but if you haven't watched it yet, we want to be in a position that's comfortable for us, but is also alert. If it is accessible to you, please sit up straight. You don't want to overstrain your back, but try and straighten your posture as much as possible. I tend to have really poor posture, but when I do practice, I do try and sit up as straight as is comfortable for my back to do naturally. This also allows me to breathe as deeply as possible and get the most oxygen in. If it's accessible to you, having your feet planted on the floor, but if that is uncomfortable for you in any way, please position your body in the way that's most comfortable. I tend to hold my hands in this position in my lap. It's a neutral position for me, but if that doesn't feel comfortable, please feel free to put your hands in whatever position you choose. Laying them in your lap or resting them on your knees might be an option. If you want to hold something soothing in your hands, that's also an option if you need a little bit of a fidget. If it feels okay to do so, please close your eyes partially or fully or adopt a soft gaze. If you are in public, please maintain a little bit of your eyes open. Let's get started. So closing your eyes fully or partially, or if it's safer to do so, adopting a soft gaze. And think of a situation in your life that is difficult, one that is causing you stress right now, whether it's a health problem, a relationship problem, a work problem, or stress related to bias or discrimination. For the purposes of this practice, please choose a specific problem in the mild to moderate range, not a big one. When you're more practiced with doing self-compassion breaks, you can apply it to a bigger problem. You can check in with your body to know if you're in the right zone. Do you feel safe, challenged, or overwhelmed? Remember that we can't learn very much if we're overwhelmed. If you do become overwhelmed during the practice, you are invited to take good care of yourself, offering yourself what you need. This is compassion too. You can open your eyes if they're closed, feel your feet on the floor, your body in the seat, or take a few long, slow breaths. If at any point it's more self-compassionate to disengage from the exercise altogether, please do so, either mentally or physically, by standing up, turning off the video, leaving. So again, recalling a situation in your life that is causing you stress. Please allow yourself to drop into the situation and recall how it feels, or remember how you felt at the time. Notice how the distress feels in your body. Now see if you can discover where in your body the sensation of stress is most evident. Allowing your experience to be just as it is, perhaps making just a little more room than usual for the experience of discomfort in your body. And try labeling the experience for yourself in a gentle and kind way. This is uncomfortable. This hurts. This is stressful. This is a moment of suffering, validating your experience as you might for a good friend, using the words that feel most relatable and appropriate. And know that what you are experiencing right now is part of the human experience. You are not alone. Others in your situation would feel just as you do or did in the same situation. Stress, suffering, discomfort, difficulty is all a part of being human. And now let's see if we can respond to distress in a new way. Can you give yourself some kindness simply because you're having a moment of discomfort? Just the fact of having this discomfort earns you kindness because it's not something that has to be earned. And if you'd like, maybe you place a hand on the part of your body that feels the stress the most. If you like, sending kindness through your fingers into that part of your body that is holding the stress for you, or gently massaging that part of your body. Or consider for a moment what you would like most to hear in a moment like this, perhaps words of comfort or support, just what you need to hear. For example, I'm here for you. You're a good person. You've got this. I love you. What might those words be for you? Can you repeat those words for yourself in your own mind, in your own way? And please take a moment and offer yourself kindness in a way that feels just right for you, savoring compassionate touch or offering yourself words of kindness just because you feel distress, not trying to change it or make it go away, any more so than soup or juice or a cozy blanket makes the flu go away. Just helps with the experience of being sick. This kindness helps with the experience of feeling distressed. And now, please begin to release the practice, letting the practice settle. Allowing yourself to feel just as you do now, letting the exercise be just as it was, allowing yourself, if only for this moment, to be just as you are. If it feels comfortable for you, bringing some movement back into your body, getting some wiggles in. And when you're ready, slowly opening your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me in the self-compassion break. Like I said, when you practice that often enough, you can kind of go through the break in a minute in the moment of stress. If you're having a difficult conversation with someone, you can do a self-compassion break. If you just got bad news, you can do a self-compassion break. If you're feeling sick or achy, you can do a self-compassion break. You could do it covertly, or you can sit and do it as a full exercise. If you want to learn more about mindful self-compassion, like I said, please check out the books by Christopher Germer and Kristen Neff that I'm linking to below. But also check out my 8-week virtual Mindful Self-Compassion class that will be beginning April 30th. I'm linking to the Eventbrite below. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me from my website, which I'll also link below. I'm looking forward to coming back and talking more about self-compassion, including what to do when self-compassion feels too much, as well as the various uses for self-compassion in daily life. I'll also be adding in some practices for you to use. Thank you so much, and don't forget to like and subscribe.